Okay, imagine this. A world where surgery. Well, where it was basically just a brutal dance with agony. Seriously. Picture screams echoing in the operating room.
Yeah, it's hard for us to even fathom now, isn't it?
Totally. That was reality back in 1846, before one guy, William Thomas Green Morton, decided to challenge it all.
And that's what we're diving into today, right? Morton's story.
Exactly. His relentless push for anesthesia in surgery, and that one single dramatic moment that, well, it changed medicine forever.
Our sources are mostly excerpts looking at his life, his achievements.
Right. So if you've ever wondered how these huge medical leaps happen, or, the personal struggles behind them.
Or just the sheer guts it takes to fight the status quo.
Yeah. Then this deep dive, it should offer some pretty surprising insights and maybe a new appreciation for not screaming during surgery.
Definitely something we take for granted now. But yeah, before 1846, surgery was terrifying. These operating theaters, they weren't sterile, calm places.
No, not at all. The sources talk about a cold, echoing operating theater in Boston.
And, get this, walls stained with the memory of countless screams. It just paints such a grim picture.
Grim is the word. It really highlights how desperate the need was. You can see why someone would be driven to find a solution.
And that brings us to Morton. His background wasn't exactly privileged. Son of a miner, farmer's daughter, rural Massachusetts.
Yeah, humble beginnings. And then his dad's business collapsed. Suddenly his dream of becoming a doctor looked like it was evaporating.
But he didn't give up, did he?
Nope. That's the fascinating part. Worked as a clerk, a printer, a salesman, anything to keep that sort of fragile dream alive.
It wasn't a straight path at all.
Not even close. Which, sometimes those unconventional paths, they lead to questioning things others just accept, like surgical pain.
That's a great point. Maybe not having that smooth, traditional medical education made him see things differently.
So dentistry, that was kind of a plan B, a way to survive when medicine seemed impossible.
Seems like it. But even there, he wasn't just, filling cavities and calling it a day. He was good at prosthetics, showed that innovative spark.
Mm-hmm.
But sources say he was really haunted by the pain his dental patients went through.
That empathy seems key, wondering if healing really had to involve such, torment.
Exactly. Like that suffering he witnessed just fueled his search for something better, something bigger than just dentistry.
So he wasn't satisfied. He wanted something more. And that led him to look into painless surgery and to Horace Wells.
Right, his early collaborator. They were both chasing this idea, exploring different substances.
And nitrous oxide, laughing gas, seemed like the answer for a bit.
It did. Until Wells's big public demonstration at Massachusetts General Hospital went badly.
Yeah, the source mentions the patient's cries echoing. Oof. Public failure.
A huge setback. Could have easily made someone quit.
But not Morton. How did he react?
Apparently he saw it less as a defeat and more as a challenge. Like, okay, nitrous oxide didn't work. What's next?
That resilience is something else. So the focus shifts. Enter ether.
Yep. And his former chemistry teacher, Charles T. Jackson. Morton went to him for advice.
What was Jackson's role here? Did he suggest ether?
Well, they started exploring ether's mysterious properties together. Jackson definitely had the chemical knowledge. He pointed Morton towards ether's potential.
Potential to knock people out without killing them, basically?
Essentially, yeah. To block pain. Though, Jackson's exact contribution would become a huge point of conflict later on.
Foreshadowing. Okay, so Morton's experimenting with ether now, but this wasn't, funded research, was it?
Oh, definitely not. He was pouring his own money into this. The sources say he was consuming his savings.
Wow.
And it put a massive strain on his marriage, too. Remember, he'd already left Harvard Medical School without a degree.
Right, so people were probably looking down on him, calling him merely a dentist.
Exactly. Facing ridicule, financial stress, marital problems. Yet he kept going.
What kept him pushing?
It seems like it was this unwavering vision, A world without surgical pain. That goal just wouldn't let him stop, despite everything.
That's pretty incredible determination. Which brings us to the big day, October 16th, 1846. The Ether Dome.
Yeah, Massachusetts General Hospital. Picture this scene. This surgical amphitheater, packed.
Skeptical surgeons, students.
All watching this 27-year-old dentist. And the patient, understandably, is trembling.
It must have been incredibly tense. Then the famous surgeon, John Collins Warren, starts the procedure, removing a neck tumor.
And everyone's waiting for the inevitable scream.
But
Silence.
where?
Just silence. The source calls it a thunderous silence.
Wow.
In that moment, surgery changed. forever.
That silence, it must have been unbelievable, and not just quiet, but the sound of a whole era of pain just ending.
Absolutely. And think about the courage it took for Morton. Stepping out there, knowing failure meant total ridicule and ruin.
He was really putting everything on the line, his reputation, his future.
Everything. His belief in what he'd found must have been absolute.
But, like you hinted, the story doesn't end with cheering crowds and instant hero status. It gets messy.
Very messy. First, he tried to patent ether. Called it lithion.
Lithion, okay. How did that go down?
Not well. The medical community was outraged. This idea of profiting from relief of suffering, they hated it.
Yeah, you can see that side of it. It immediately made people question his motives, didn't it?
Completely.
Yeah.
Was he this great humanitarian?
Mm-hmm.
Or just trying to make a buck? That savior or charlatan question hung over him.
It raises that tricky balance between rewarding innovation and making sure breakthroughs benefit everyone, doesn't it?
It really does. A tension we still see today in medicine.
And it wasn't just the pattern. The credit itself became a fight.
Oh, yeah. A huge fight. Charles Jackson, the chemistry teacher, he jumped in saying, hey, I discovered this.
Of course he did.
And Horace Wells, the nitrous oxide guy, he also claimed priority. So suddenly, Morton's fighting on multiple fronts.
What did that mean for him practically?
Years of hell, basically.
Yeah.
Lawsuits, congressional hearings, public debates. His dental practice collapsed. He went into debt.
Public humiliation, too. The source mentioned his effigy hanged.
Yeah. Pretty brutal. While anesthesia itself was spreading like wildfire around the world.
The guy who started it all was being dragged through the mud.
Exactly. The world embraced the discovery, but the discoverer. He had to fight tooth and nail for any kind of recognition. It's a tragic irony.
Even during the Civil War, right? He served as an anesthetist.
He did. Brought relief, mercy to thousands of wounded soldiers on the battlefield. You'd think that would count for something.
But still struggling personally.
Massively. The sources say he even had to pawn medals just to feed his family. It's heartbreaking.
So he died still fighting.
Pretty much. In 1868, exhausted and impoverished, still tangled in these disputes.
Wow. It wasn't until after his death on his tombstone that he got that proper acknowledgement.
Right. The inscription finally called him the inventor and revealer of inhalation anesthesia, highlighting the impact, how surgery was no longer an agony because of him.
Such a tough story. So looking back at it all, what does Morton's life tell us about, changing the world?
Well, number one is just sheer perseverance, isn't it? Facing ridicule, poverty, betrayal, and just not quitting.
He wasn't perfect, though. That ambition, the patent thing.
No, definitely not perfect. The sources acknowledge his flaws, his desire for recognition, maybe got in the way sometimes.
But maybe that desire is also just human, wanting your sacrifices to mean something.
I think so. And it shows the bravery needed to keep pushing your vision when everyone's against you. His life shows that changing the world. It's often a road of thorns.
Sleepless nights, constant struggle.
But it's the ones who refuse to surrender, who dare to believe in a better future. They're the ones who make the difference.
And the sources try to connect this to us, right? To the listener, saying our own challenges are like our personal ether dome moments.
Yeah, I like that framing. These moments where you have to choose courage over comfort, conviction over compromise.
Asking if we will let fear shut down our ideas, our visions.
It's a challenge, isn't it? To think about what pain, literal or metaphorical, you're willing to confront in the world. Are you willing to risk failure for something you believe in?
Even if you don't get the credit right away.
Especially then, maybe? The message seems to be, step up anyway. The world needs people who dare to defy pain, who challenge the impossible.
Face things with relentless hope. Even small acts matter.
Exactly. They all add up to that legacy of progress. It's not always about the big, flashy moments.
So as we wrap up this deep dive on William Morton, maybe something for you, the listener, to think about.
Yeah.
Consider those moments in your own life where you might be on the edge of something new, facing doubts, of facing hardship. Just like Morton, before that demonstration.
What's your ether? What discovery, what change are you maybe holding back?
And what courage will it take for you to step into your own ether dome, whatever that looks like? Will you dare to be remembered for the pain you helped end?